Well, well, well. Good afternoon, everybody. It's about lunchtime. Figured that might be a good time to go live and talk a little bit about chemtrails, the grand conspiracy theory everybody is wondering all about, especially in the age of climate change, where we are all so concerned that the planet might kill us all
Well,
tomorrow.
well,
We might all
well.
die tomorrow.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Whoa, wait a minute. I'm
It's
getting a
about
little bit of
lunchtime.
feedback here.
Figured that might be a good time to go live and talk a little bit about chemtrails, the grand conspiracy theory everybody is wondering all about, especially in the age of climate change, where we are all so
Fixed. Okay, that was not good. Anyway, so I have a little bit of a presentation here for you guys, a little bit of an explanation, a little bit of an exploration. I guess I'll just get right into it. So first, let's go to share my screen. This is a new thing, testing this out. We'll see how this goes. So let's just go to the Wikipedia page real quick for a second. If you look up chemtrails, the conspiracy theory, you will find this wonderful Wikipedia page, which Wikipedia, of course, has an explanation for everything, right? It's the new encyclopedia, and you can read for yourself. They say here, the chemtrail conspiracy theory is the erroneous belief that long-lasting condensation trails left in the sky by high-flying aircraft are actually chemtrails consisting of chemical or biological agents sprayed for nefarious purposes undisclosed to the general public. Such as weather modification, psychological manipulation, human population control, biological or chemical warfare. Solar radiation management is also another phrase that's used. So this is the Wikipedia page, right? And you can make of this what you will. Wikipedia is a good source for information. However, when you're really trying to dig, actually, that's what I was going to say. If you're really trying to dig, Wikipedia can be very useful. However, you got to be very cognizant of what you're looking at. Okay, so let's move on to J. Marvin Herndon's Wikipedia page. J. Marvin Herndon is a geochemist, a nuclear geochemist, and he is also a member of the organization, which I'm part of, Our Geoengineering Age. And this is Marvin's his Wikipedia page. And notice, there's some work that he's done, and he's talked about a lot of different stuff over the years, some controversial, some not so much. However, notice, whoops. Oh my goodness. See, I'm learning. The chemtrail theory proponent. Herndon has become a proponent of the chemtrail conspiracy theory and published several peer-reviewed papers claiming that coal fly ash is being sprayed for geoengineering. So Herndon has been tagged by the mainstream Wikipedia source, if you will. I mean, even when I was in high school, teachers told us we were not allowed to use Wikipedia. However, this is J. Marvin Herndon, and he is being tagged, of course, with chemtrail conspiracy theory. It blows my mind how that word conspiracy theory is used as a means of manipulation and to control the way that you think. And most people, they don't even think about it. But let me just give a brief history on the phrase conspiracy theory. The mainstream Mockingbird media started throwing that phrase around frequently after JFK was killed by the Central Intelligence Agency, the mob, the nefarious groups all around. And this is the phrase that they coined and had their media assets within the mainstream media use. This phrase, conspiracy theory. It's used all the time to discredit things that, people want to know about, actually. But if the government doesn't want you to know about it, this is the word they're going to use to make sure that you don't know, and you immediately write it off. Oh my God, a conspiracy theory. Oh, idiots. Anyway, so let's move on. So if this is a conspiracy theory, right? Well, the geniuses over at Harvard must have something to say about it, right? So let me just introduce to you a gentleman by the name of David Keith. David Keith, and we can look him up real quick. I think it's important. He kind of looks like the the woke, or no, not the woke, the soy Wojak meme. If you see this guy, anybody know what I'm talking about? Well, anyway, sorry, David, if you're out there watching, it's not necessarily a burn on you, but you kind of look like this guy. Let's just look at him again. David Keith. Okay, here he is. So David Keith is a geoengineer, self-proclaimed. Well, not exactly, but I'm currently in the process of reading his book, Climate Engineering, A Case for Climate Engineering. Anyway, so here it is, the chemtrail conspiracy theory. He also says, okay, it is a conspiracy theory. We haven't seen. Okay, so we haven't seen any credible evidence that chemtrails exist. If we did see any evidence that governments were endangering their own citizens in the manner alleged in the chemtrails conspiracy, we would be eager to expose and stop any such activities. Okay, sure you are. Sure you are. Even though you are actually advocating for geoengineering activities, right? So that's who David Keith is. David Keith is somebody who is one of these people who is making the case that climate engineering and geoengineering should be used as a means to solve our climate change global warming issue. And he argues that we should be doing this thing called solar radiation management. And now he's gone on tour, giving presentations. He's been on Stephen Colbert, who I'm going to show you in a quick clip. But I just want to really drill this in. The idea that chemtrails are a conspiracy theory, it just doesn't make any sense, because what he is advocating for is quite literally the usage of chemtrails to stop climate warming and climate change, right? And this is the thing. This is the mental gymnastics that we have to go through to understand exactly what's happening. They want to tell you that you can't rely on your own brain and your own researching ability and your own eyeballs with what you see to infer for yourself and make judgments and try to figure out what exactly is going on. So you have to go through all this like mental gymnastics and really just BS to figure out what the heck these people are trying to do and what they're talking about. So if you could keep going on, he says, there's no existence of chemtrails. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. This is where they go on to say, there's a point here when he talks about the Manhattan Project. Here we go. Here it is. The Russians, for example. Okay, remember that the internet is filled with people who are completely sure about stuff that isn't true. Remember, while governments can keep secrets that involve only a few people, they do a very bad job of keeping large-scale programs secret. The Russians, for example, knew specific details about the Manhattan Project before the first nuclear weapon test, and that was a case where those involved had a clear patriotic motivation to keep secret. This is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. He's trying to claim that because people like the Russians knew about the Manhattan Project, which, by the way, there was hundreds of thousands of people working on this project, and very, very few even knew what the project was. Even up until the moment the bomb was dropped, people didn't know what it was until they heard about it on the radio and they realized the project that they were working on and what they were part of. So he's using the Manhattan Project as an example, to say people would know about it. People would figure it out, and they would start to tell our adversaries about it. Well, am I not an example of somebody who's asking questions about it? I'm just one person, by the way. And there's multiple people that have worked in the intelligence agencies that have come out and said, hey, this is going on. I mean, look, make of what you will about Dane Wigington and the dimming. However, there's a lot of former military people and former military and former intelligence agency people that are in that film, and people that used to work for the president of the United States even. But that's a whole other question. Okay, anyway, moving on. A little bit more about David Keith. Let's see who this guy is. This is David Keith talking about his grand conspiracy idea with Stephen Colbert.
Out of the long run need to stop polluting, but it might actually save people and be useful.
Okay, so how, again, I interrupted slightly there. How does it work? How many planes are we talking about here? How do you do this?
So let's say you wanted to stop it warming in 2020. You'd start with a fleet of just 2 or 3 kind of modified business jets.
What kind of like a G6?
Yeah, like a G650.
Like a G6.
That's
like
it.
A G6.
And
yes.
you put you'd put, say, 20,000 tons of sulfuric acid into the stratosphere every year, and each year you have to put a little more, and this doesn't, in the long run, mean that you can forget about cutting emissions. We will need to rein in emissions.
No, we'll get to it eventually, yeah.
But it does.
But in the meantime, we're shrouding the Earth in sulfuric acid.
So people are terrified about talking about this because they're scared that it will prevent us cutting emissions.
Right, and also that it's sulfuric acid.
It is.
You're bearing the lead. Is there any possible way this could come back to bite us in the ass? Blanketing the Earth in sulfuric acid, because I'm all for it. This is the all-chocolate dinner. I still get to have my CO2, and I just need to spray sulfuric acid all over the Earth.
Right question, but we put 50 million tons of sulfuric acid in the air now as pollution, and it kills 1 million people a year worldwide.
Okay, and that's good or bad?
It's terrible.
But it'll be better if we put more in.
We're talking about 1% of that, a tiny fraction of that. So we should reduce that sulfuric acid.
So if it kills 1 million people and we're only doing 1% more, we're just killing 10,000 more people.
You can do math.
Okay.
But that's so killing people is not the objective here.
Killing people, not the objective. I just wanted to be clear.
Not the objective. Killing people is not the objective.
Actually stopping climate change in a way that could help people this generation, people living now, in a way there's no other easy alternative.
Can you just do it for part of the planet?
Pretty much the whole planet.
No, but could you? Could you just just make things better for the United States?
Very hard to do. It seems that this is mostly global. But the big fear is that one country will want it one way and one the other, like two frat boys arguing over the thermostat. And in many ways, the biggest fear here, well, we have no idea how to actually agree about how to control the planet's thermostat.
So let's say the United States and China say, yeah, let's do it. But Russia and India say, yeah, not do it.
This is the kind of stuff I wake up sweating about. Exactly.
Well, it's your goddamn idea.
No, it actually turns out to be an old idea. This was
Really?
known since President Johnson. And the scientific community mostly decided not to talk about it for fear that people would then lose the threat of cutting emissions.
No,
Interesting. See, he's making the drawback to where I'm about to go with this, is that this conversation of weather modification actually has been going on for a very, very, very long time. This is nothing new. This is something they're now promoting as a great idea. You know what? Let's do it. This is the future, baby. We need to stop climate change. So we're going to pretty much do whatever it takes. We're going to spray shit in the atmosphere to block out the sun. You know, and that's just the thing. They're acting as if it's this new idea, right? Like it's not something we've already been able to do. And now we're going to do it and it's going to save the planet, as if we haven't been using weather modification to, I don't know, cause floods and hurricanes and make it rain and really just anything that you can imagine, right? Think about it. If we have the technology to do this, let's imagine we have since the 1960s. Let's imagine we've had the technology to control the weather, right? Okay, so why is there still all this climate catastrophe going on? Why are all these natural disasters happening? Why are there all these wildfires? We'll get there. We're going to get into it a little bit more. But however, so let's go back to this. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this. This is an article. Bill Gates' venture aims to spray dust into the atmosphere to block the sun. What could go wrong? Well, nothing. This article is more than 3 years old. So look, we've all definitely seen this. We've talked about this one. I've talked about it a lot in the past. But Bill Gates, who just always seems to be the boogeyman, here he is once again saying, let's block out the sun. Great idea. Well, not so much. But here's another one. Another Bill McKibben, a Vermonter, by the way, a Vermonter. Well, maybe he's not a Vermonter. I know he lives in Vermont, but does that make him a Vermonter? I don't know, man. You're arguing that we should block out the sun. I don't know how environmentally sound of an idea that is. Bill McKibben is one of the founders of 350.org, an environmental nonprofit, and an organization that is really, committed to climate activism and building an audience about global warming and what needs to be done to stop global warming. So here's Bill McKibben, and this is an article he wrote the day November November 22nd, the same day JFK was assassinated in 1963. November 22nd, 2022. Writing about dimming the sun to cool the planet. It's a desperate idea, but we're inching towards it. Great idea, man. Really good idea. I'm really glad you guys are all thinking that this is something we're inching towards, as if it hasn't already been going on for the past, 4 decades, but whatever. Okay. Now, here we go. This is another big one. A lot of you might remember this too. Weather engineering in China. How the Chinese plan to modify the weather in Beijing during the Olympics using supercomputers and artillery. Okay. So this furthers the point that, weather modification is not just chemtrails, by the way, or the chemtrail conspiracy theory. That just doesn't make any sense. But so they actually did this for their opening ceremony. They made the sky perfectly clear. Perfectly clear. That's pretty incredible. I wonder if they did that the other day for the eclipse, because a lot of us did see geoengineering activity going on. But yeah, so they made the sky perfectly clear and that was in 2008. Everyone, 2008. So this weather stuff, this weather modification stuff, it's not anything new. And let's take it even a step further back. Let's go back to 1962. Here is their Vice President, Lyndon Baines Johnson, at Southwest Texas State University. Here he is. This is a very famous quote in the geoengineering world, but I'll just play it for you all because I just think it's so interesting.
That will provide. It lays the predicate and the foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
Did you catch that? He who controls the weather will control the world. That was in 1962, okay? We always talk about this as if it's something new, man. But this has been a conversation that's been going on for a really long time. It's just the conversation has gone underground. And we can get into that and explain why. But here's another thing I just wanted to show you. This is Gordon J.F. McDonald's Wikipedia page, and for anyone who doesn't know who he is, he was a longtime member of the Jason Adversary Group of Scientists. He served on the original Presidential Council on Environmental Quality for President Nixon. And President Nixon remarked at the time, "I have 3 members of the Harvard class," Harvard once again, on my staff, all summa cum laude. This was a reference to Henry Kissinger, James Schlesinger, and McDonald. McDonald chaired the CIA's Media Committee, a group of environmental scientists convened by the CIA to study whether data from classified intelligence systems could shed light on the global environmental issues. So that's a little bit about McDonald, and McDonald was very keen to this stuff. He was very aware of this stuff, this geoengineering and weather modification and using the weather as a weapon. He knew about it a long, long time ago. In fact, he was even writing about it in 1962. He wrote an article called "How to Wreck the Environment." Excuse me, that was in 1968. 1968, he's writing an article, "How to Wreck the Environment." Here it is. So this is a really important quote, and this brings us back to today, to what I think is going on, what we're seeing play out day to day. So Gordon writes, this is in his thing, "How to Wreck the Environment." Eventually, however, means of other than open warfare may be used to secure national advantage. As economic competition made advanced nations heightens, it may be the environment for. Wait a second, I'm all screwed up here. It may be to a country's advantage to ensure a peaceful natural environment for itself, disturbed environment for its competitors. Operations producing such conditions might be carried out covertly, since nature's great irregularity permits storms, floods, droughts, earthquakes, and tidal waves to be viewed as unusual but not unexpected. Such a secret war need never be declared or even be known by the affected populations. It could go on for years, with only the security forces being involved being aware of it. The years of drought and storm would be attributed to the unkindly nature of only to unkindly nature, and only after a nation were thoroughly drained would take an armed takeover attempt. So this is McDonald back in the 60s writing about this. And what triggered this? Well, everybody knows about, I've talked about this a lot. I talk about it all the time, is Operation Popeye. That was the covert weather modification program happening over the during the Vietnam conflict, happening over Cambodia and the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And essentially what that was is they were cloud seeding. The United States military was cloud seeding, making it rain, expanding and extending the monsoon season, making it worse. And essentially the goal was to make travel more difficult, and to make the supply lines for the Viet Cong more difficult to pass. So, whether or not they were getting their ammunitions, their food, clothes, whatever they need, the rain was making that a heck of a lot worse. And, you could talk to people that were actually in Vietnam, and, they said it rained a lot. So, Forrest Gump pretty famously said that. So where am I going with all this? How does this relate to Vermont, for example, or the United States? Well, hold on a second. Well, some of you might be aware of this. We had an eclipse here in Vermont last weekend, and we had a little bit of a mix-up with the Teslas. And let's just play this. Let's watch this. Come on. Did I break it? Hold on a second, folks. We're having technical difficulties, if you can imagine. Okay, here we go.
Eclipse, and you've got a problem. For the Livesies, it was a day of joy turned headache, from total eclipse to total disaster.
It was spectacular, but I had to rush back because I noticed that the battery on my Tesla was running low.
The rush to get home from rural Vermont made worse for Tesla owners searching for charging stations.
I just need a charger.
Only to find them with lines dozens deep.
I got there with 1 mile, only to find out that there were other 60 cars waiting to be charged.
135, 136. So the family took charge, helping a couple from Cambridge hand out numbers and making other drivers wait their turn.
We were giving out paper tickets with a number on it.
I got to go to this one. That's 16-year-old Nico with glow sticks directing traffic and trying to keep the peace.
Trying to keep the mood pleasant, just in my mind, I was thinking maybe it's going to be a long night.
A similar story in Burlington, Vermont. Lines of Teslas waiting to charge and people banding together to put order to chaos.
I don't even know where all these people came from, because I didn't know there's that much Teslas.
At St. Johnsbury, the wait was over 4 hours.
It's good seeing everyone come together at the end, just working towards a common goal of getting home.
People were hugging, and then, they were thanking us.
Turning this spectacle into another great shared experience.
This was worth the trip. It doesn't matter if, right now.
I love the spin, by the way, at the end, where they're it's just everyone coming together. It's just a grand old time. Everybody in their Teslas. Now, look, I'm not picking on anyone, especially the family there. That probably wasn't a very fun time, but they turned it into a positive time, which I can't blame them for that. That's admirable. However, what am I getting at? Where am I going with this? Well, a contributor to the Chronicle, his name's Rob Roper. He wrote he wrote a Substack on his Substack called Behind the Lines, which if you don't subscribe already, I highly recommend that you do. He's a great writer. He talked a little bit about this eclipse event and this phenomena with the Teslas, because this was happening all over Vermont. And by the way, outside of Vermont too. It was a complete mob show here. We had, 150,000 people here in a state where the population is only 650,000 people. That's a pretty big uptick. So also an uptick apparently in Teslas. My guess was they thought, they're going to Vermont. We're all headed to Vermont. There's going to be plenty of electric chargers. Everybody drives Teslas up there, right? Everybody drives an electric vehicle in Vermont. They're the most environmentally conscious place on the planet. Well, that might be true. I would like to think I'm pretty environmentally conscious. However, I don't drive a Tesla, and not all Vermonters do. And for that matter, we don't really have that great of an electrical infrastructure to begin with, right? Anytime there's a massive winter storm, there's tons of power outages, and it's always been this way to some degree. However, it seems that it's increasingly getting worse, and that the power outages are lasting longer. And that goes with the theme of the shrinking workforce, and of course climate change, right? Getting worse and worse. We're getting all these horrible storms all the time, or they're unusual storms. They're weird. We get heavy late snow in April, or early snow in November, or we get these crazy floods all the time now. It just seems like it's flooding constantly. I'm being a little bit dramatic. However, I think some of you know what my point is when I'm talking about these Teslas. It's like, okay, great, right? I think Teslas are cool. For the record, I think that electric vehicles, to some degree, are the future. However, let's imagine instead of an eclipse, right? And it's Vermont. Let's just do a little thought exercise. Let's imagine it's 2035. Okay, all electric vehicles, all gas-powered vehicles have been banned in the United States. You are not allowed to drive a gas-powered vehicle in Vermont, not the United States, in Vermont. And, I don't know, maybe there's some sort of natural disaster where everybody has to evacuate a certain part of the state, or maybe the whole state as a whole. Everybody has to leave. Okay, so instead of an eclipse, and it's 2035, we have a natural disaster. There's no more gas-powered vehicles, only allowed to drive Teslas. My hope is that at that point we have enough chargers for everybody to charge their cars. But even if we did, you're still going to be stuck waiting a while to charge your car. And for that matter, we have a weak electrical grid as it stands. Meanwhile, we want to increase the amount of electricity that we're going to be using. And we see this all the time in places like California where they have these energy blackouts, where you're basically told, everybody's got to, first of all, you may lose your power for a while, but everybody's got to unplug their AC so that you can charge your Tesla. It's one or the other, I guess. I guess you guys probably see the point that I'm getting at, and this is the point that Rob was making. Now, let's go back to, this brings me back to this article, Bean, how did this storm happen? Yes, that's me. I wrote this article. This was in July, after the Great Flood of July. And essentially, I argue we can't rule out weather modification. And I kind of run through in the exact same way what I just ran through here, except it's just an article, a little different. And, there's just so much information out there about geoengineering and weather modification. And, we're constantly told that it's just it's a conspiracy theory, and we're not allowed to talk about it, essentially. And if you do, you're crazy. You're one of these people. You're one of these. You have erroneous beliefs. It's just ridiculous. They're so good at branding the idea as a conspiracy theory. Meanwhile, you can just run through, like, there's here scientists like this David Keith, who's literally advocating for spraying chemicals into the sky that will kill up to 10,000 people if his plan works out perfectly. It's like so stupid. It blows my mind. It's just unbelievable. And I guess where I'm going more with this too is what this comes down to is all about control, right? Like if you're talking about, maybe this conspiracy part where they're saying, oh, it's used for human population control, biological or chemical warfare, psychological manipulation. Like all those things are somewhat true, because what did I just say about all the Teslas and the problems that they had with them here in Vermont? Like that's a serious concern. And it truly is about control. It is about control of resources. It's about control of transportation. It's about control of your own behaviors and choices that you want to make. And, if you say, well, guess what? I don't want to drive an electric vehicle. Well, boom, it's mandated. 2035, there's no longer gas-powered vehicles allowed to be sold in this state. And I think it's really interesting because here I am doing my little podcast here from a showroom of an old Chevy dealership. And, just how things have changed, man, in the last 60 years. And I could go on and on and on about the environmental regulations of cars, not just in Vermont, but throughout this whole country, and how that's changed the self-sufficiency of a people, as of a population. Cars and trucks specifically have become so expensive, so far out of reach, that self-sustainability and having the old farm truck just kind of seems like a dream to a lot of people, right? But I'm not trying to get too deep down that rabbit hole. I'm just trying to explain the chemtrail conspiracy and a little bit of the media push, I would say, especially in mainstream media, to normalize this idea. This isn't an exploration of the science behind geoengineering. That's a whole other episode. And I would need some people a little bit smarter than me to explain the science behind it. But I can do it too. I will say though, where I'm best is looking at it from the stance of communication, and looking at a stance from media themes. So I just wanted to give a little explanation today. I hope people have enjoyed. I hope it makes sense. I hope that, the technology worked the way that I needed it to. And, I really would appreciate feedback from people. I want to hear, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking? What are your questions? Are you concerned about geoengineering and the chemtrail conspiracy? And if you are, what do you know about it? And what do you think I missed today? What could I have explained better? So anyway, hope you enjoyed, and I'm going to shut this thing off, and I'll catch you here next time. Thanks for everyone for watching.